Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum. And in today's episode, it's a bit of a controversial one. I am going to talk about my top 5 worst movies with a cult following. Um, so appropriate that I wore a shirt with all the cult classic names on it. Cute, right? Made it myself. So there's a couple on this list that are probably gonna make a lot of people mad. That's okay. I'm going to go in order from oldest to newest. You will find that most of them are new. I think I only have one that's like an older one. So my first one, hope you're all sitting down for this. Worst movie with a cult following is Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko came out in 2001. It has an 8 out of 10 on IMDb and an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. I was in high school the first time I saw the movie. By the time I saw it, it had already been out for a bit. And I remember people telling me, you have to see this movie. It's so great. I was going through like an emo phase and all my emo friends loved it. And I was like, I've never even heard of this movie. Oh, it sounds so edgy. Let me go watch it. Do you know that even at 15, I thought it was absolute rubbish? Because it is. First of all, even as an adult, I'm not a super big fan of Jake Gyllenhaal as an actor. I don't think he brings a lot to the table in the acting world. But aside from that, Donnie Darko is a movie about a angsty teen who essentially learns that the end of the world is coming, and he has this maybe chance to save the world. So I'm gonna kind of do it like things that I hate, and then like its redemption. And so the things that I hated, I had to write notes. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sitting through Donnie Darko again for the sake of being caught up because I hated it that much. So I had to like really ponder like what was it about this movie that drove me nuts that I hated so much that when people say how much they love it, my skin crawls. And one of the big ones was it's supposed to be this movie about the end of the world, and then all of these other little like components that play into him knowing what's happening or knowing what's going to happen and whatever. It's very boring. None of the events that are supposed to be these big climactic moments are. I just didn't feel like I wasn't excited. I didn't feel dread. Like I just was like, I mean, okay, like, and I felt that way even as a young, impressionable youth. I hated this movie. And I think one of the other reasons is I mentioned I don't like Jake Gyllenhaal. So I don't really feel like the acting was that great either. And I think it was a little less than mediocre. And sometimes you can watch a movie or a TV show or whatever and not even really like the movie or what happened, and yet still get kind of pulled in a little bit, and the acting and the actors and the people that are part of it kind of help drive that home when you won't really like it otherwise. And that wasn't really the case with this one. So that was another part of it that I really just didn't like. And I don't think that there is very many things about it that are memorable. It just kind of felt like, okay, if you ever played a game that you've played, maybe it doesn't have like a ton of replay value, but you've played it before, and there's this like one side quest that you know about, but you're just like, I don't want to. You don't bring anything to the table. You're not going to help me upgrade my stuff. Like I don't get any experience. Like I don't really care. For me, that would be Fable 2, when you have to go save your kid from the cave, with the Hobbs in it. Hobbs? Yeah. And anyway, there's a glitch and you can't get out of the cage. But anyway, I mean out of the cave. But anyway, it's one of those things where you're just like, I'm just gonna go do something else. Like I just didn't feel like it was super memorable. It's just one of those things that I was like, yeah, I've seen it. I crossed that off my list. I'm moving on. So, which kind of brings me to redemption, right? So this movie doesn't have a lot of redemption for me because again, it's one of my least favorites. Um, but I will say that the rabbit's creepy. Well, you know, the mask is creepy. And I think that that added definitely, like, if there was any moment or any multiple moments throughout the film where you're kind of like, ooh, that's kind of weird, like, it would be the moments that include that stupid rabbit. And it's kind of iconic. I used to listen to a screamo band around the same time that actually used a bit from that movie in one of their songs. It was like super edgy and everybody loved it or whatever. And the other thing that I felt like was sort of redeeming about it is this concept of being able to see something or being able to prevent something is it's not an original concept, but it was new enough and done in a way that did kind of make it a newer concept. And then there's of course movies that followed after, like Premonition, and all those movies where it's like you have an option to do something about this thing that you're not supposed to know about. I would even kind of say Butterfly Effect is kind of like that. That's another good movie. But anyway, so it's only two really big redeeming points for me. Which brings me to number two, Babadook, 2014. It's IMDb was a 6.8 out of 10, and it got a 98% on the thermometer. Babadook is a movie about a mother and a son who the mother, when she was pregnant, they were on the way to the hospital. The dad died, and she and the baby survived. And it's essentially a story about this sense of, being isolated, raising I think what is meant to be a problematic child, while also dealing with your own trauma, your own grieving that you are obviously not over, as well as postpartum depression. Um, so it's a statement piece. I've talked about this in my one of my 30-second reviews. But it is one that I know a lot of people that really like it. And it was not one that made me just be like, oh, this is the greatest movie. And I do know that the director that did Babadook, it was her first like big film, first film. I can't remember, one or the other. And I think for what it was, I do commend her on the project, like from the statement side of it, but I'll get to that anyway. So the things that I hated about it, I felt like there was the atmosphere was lacking a bit, and there wasn't a whole lot of buildup. There's a couple of scenes where I think mostly what you're feeling is anxiety for the mother, embarrassment for the mother, stress for the mother, which I think that part's fine, but it doesn't, as far as being like a horror film, the Babadook is incredibly goofy looking. He's not somebody that like, I mean, who knows? Like in real world situations, if I was alone at night and I saw that thing coming at me, would I be scared? Absolutely. Sitting in the safety of my home, watching it in a movie that I'm not engrossed in, no, not at all. And I think one of the other things, and I'm not 100% sure if this part was done intentionally so, but the scene, the transitions between scenes and the segments, like as you move through the story, they're kind of jarring. They're a little, like any moment that you might have actually been really like invested in it, it's kind of abruptly ended and they're moving on to the next scenes. The scenes are very, I'm trying to think of the word for it, they're just like they're very like abrupt switches to the next thing, which is probably a style, I can see that, but I think for me in this film it just didn't really work that well. um and I think that I don't know, the ending, I kind of didn't hate the ending, but I did feel like it was a bit anticlimactic. But I think it's all because it's symbolic of other things, which will take me into the things that I did like about it, or its redemption. So in Babadook, it is absolutely a statement about motherhood and identity within motherhood. I don't know anybody that could watch it and not pick up on that. And I do love that about it. I think that I have another channel that is a mom channel. And I think that because I have such a very raw, real opinion of motherhood, and I like when mothers are honest about the not so great parts of motherhood, I just have a lot of respect for that. So I do really like that part of it. As a statement goes, I think it was super well done. I think it definitely drives home this concept of guilt and anger and resentment towards a child that you are meant to take care of and love, and you do it anyway. It doesn't matter what you feel. It doesn't matter that you're alone. It doesn't matter that they're really difficult. It doesn't matter that the school's not working with you. It doesn't matter that he's probably going to grow up and be a serial killer. You love him unconditionally and you're just doing the best that you can. But you can tell the entire movie that the mom is hanging by like a very thin thread. But I really like the way that that's done, because I will tell you, as you are a viewer watching this movie, I feel like that would be what it would be like to be a stranger watching a mother go through this in public. You're very uncomfortable. You're very on edge. You just want it to be fixed. You just want it to not be in front of you anymore. And I think as a society, that's what we do to mothers. We're not allowed to talk about things. Our kids are not allowed to have tantrums in grocery stores. And I'll get off my soapbox about that one, but you get the point. It's very it does set you up like you are a stranger in public watching this unfold. And you definitely feel a lot of that discomfort. I certainly did. And I'm not like, anyway. And I think the other thing is I really liked its kind of twist, I guess, on personal demons. Taking this concept of all these demons that she's feeling, this trauma from her husband dying, this loneliness, this grieving, all of those things that she's feeling on top of all the things with her son, and turning it into a manifestation of something that's very real and terrifying. That's not only tormenting her, but her child as well. And I think that's really important to what they're trying to create as a statement piece. And I think that all works really well. The in the end, when it ends up living in their, I guess, a basement is what it's supposed to be. It's not a garage. I think that is in its simplest form a way of acknowledging that those personal demons are there and learning to find a way to live with them in a healthy enough manner that those around you can live with them also. And I think that that's perfect. I love that. I just wish that maybe it had been done in not a horror film setting. I think it could have been done as just a drama, maybe. I'm not really sure. I don't know. But it was just, those aspects were so good outside of the way it was set up as far as being a horror movie. So that's my thoughts on Babadook. Which leads me to number 3, which is No One Yell at Me. It Follows, which came out in 2014. Yep. 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb and a 95% on the thermometer. This is another one that I heard, like, I saw it not long after it came out, I think. And it was one of those other things where, like, I heard about it all the time, how great it was. It was so good, blah, blah, blah. What a visionary, yada, yada. And then I just watched it and I was just kind of like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get the appeal. The plot of It Follows is about this young girl who goes on a date with her boyfriend. We don't know how long they've been dating. And they have sex, and he gives her a STD, sexually transmitted demon. And he tells her, you'll see it following you. It's coming to kill you. And the only way to prevent it from happening is to have sex with someone else and give it to them. But then there's a catch, because if it kills that person, then it comes back after you. And so essentially it's about this girl and her little group of misfits that are trying to escape it, figure out what to do, and fight this thing that's following them. And no one can see it except the person that's infected. So that makes things a little risky, a little harder. So the things that I hated about this movie, there are a few scenes that are meant to be very intense scenes. There's the pool scene, which is the first to come to mind, the part where they're on the beach. Like, there's a couple of scenes that are supposed to be these, like, oh shit kind of moments. And they weren't. I think I just remember thinking, like, especially the pool scene, I was like, this looks so silly. Like, it just seemed so silly. And it's like they're in this pool and they're just, they're trying to figure out a way to end this. And I mean, I don't know, they're doing the best they can or whatever. But it's just like, you know, I don't think Marco Polo is going to kill this STD. And it just is kind of a weird, I don't know, like all the scenes like that just seemed very silly to me. I couldn't take them very seriously. Um, the other thing is with with it being so oriented about sex and teenagers, it very much felt like a CW teen drama kind of show. It wasn't something that felt, I don't know, maybe I was too old to watch it. Maybe if I had been 16, it would have scared the crap out of me. But as an adult watching it, it just felt immature, I guess. And I realize that it's making a very valuable statement, I guess, about, sexually transmitted diseases and that sort of thing, I guess. But it just kind of felt like somebody just kind of maybe got drunk or high one night and was like, it'd be really kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Um, but I just didn't think that just didn't hit a home run with me. Um, and I think one of the other things, because I know that I had something else, what was it? Oh, yeah. So because this thing moves at a snail's pace, there's no sense of urgency. Like there's not a lot of buildup and anxiety. There's a couple of scenes where they come into interaction with it and these like things happen and they almost get hurt or somebody gets snatched by the hair, whatever. But it just isn't one of those things. It's not like, I don't really know what to compare it to. I guess since I went the teen drama route, I'll go teen slasher. So, those moments where you see Michael at the end of the hallway or you see him outside in the street, and even though he's far away at that moment, there's a sense of dread where like, I'm fucked. I never felt that all during this movie. It just kind of, I don't know, it just didn't hit that for me, I guess. I just thought it was kind of like, meh. Now, it does have some pretty interesting redemption points. I think that the casting was really good. I don't actually have any complaints about that at all. And I really liked, so there's this kind of thing, I've actually read about this from a couple different perspectives, even prior to deciding to do this video, where they talk about this weird concept in the movie of not knowing how much time has gone by. So in the very start of the movie, you see this girl come out in and she's leaving in a hurry, and she gets in like a Honda Civic or something. I can't remember what kind of car it is. And then when we go into the most of it with the main characters, it's like not present day anymore. And it kind of plays this line of like, is it? Is it not? Like it's really kind of hard to tell. And then there's these weird jumps in seasons that happen too. Like there's a scene where the main character is like in a pool, and then there'll be like another scene which is like bundled up, and then they're on the beach, and then they're like, so it's very and I'm sure it's done on purpose. I don't actually understand the why behind it, but I think it's kind of an interesting thing to note as you're watching it, because you have no idea how much time has passed. And if you're not thinking about it at the end of the movie, if you're not thinking about the fact that you just saw this girl at the beginning of the movie getting to like a Honda or something, like a Honda Civic or one of the, like a newer, like, I don't know, it could have been Toyota, newer, like whatever cars, you don't really think about that until after the fact. Like I was watching, I don't remember what it was, Kill Count maybe by Dead Meat. If you are not following Dead Meat, you should be. I'm going to link him below because he's awesome. He and his fiance, I don't know if they're married yet. They do a horror podcast together too. That's really good. But anyway, but he was talking about this weird sense of jump. And I think he was the first person I was like, oh my God, he's right. I never thought about that. So I thought that was actually really interesting. I'm not really sure what it did for me as far as the movie and like getting involved in the story and caring about the characters, because I didn't. But I think that like otherwise, like that's just like a really interesting little thing. So yeah, that's It Follows. Which brings me to number 4, which is Crimson Peak, which came out in 2015. Yep. It got a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb and a 73% on the thermometer. Crimson Peak is a movie that I feel like people just loved when it came out. I could not stop hearing about. It's one of those movies, much like the last one on the list, where you see these articles that are like people left almost passing out or throwing up from how scary this was, or blah blah blah, right? And then usually when I see those, I go, I'm gonna hate that movie because that's usually what happens. But I'm like, oh my god, it has Jessica Chastain in it. It has Tom Hiddleston in it. I almost called him Tom Riddle. And then it's got, I don't know, this is horrible. I can't remember her name on the moment. The girl that played Alice in Wonderland. Oh, I can't remember her name. Her. She's in it also, and I was like, oh man, this looks so good. And it's got like these very dark hues, and it looks very gothic horror, which is, and so I was like, this is gonna be so good. And then I went and saw it, and I was just kind of like, man, what a missed opportunity that was to really do something great for the genre. Um, the plot is it's about this girl who, girl meets guy, they get engaged. She's to come this to go live in this big ass house. They're from the because they're supposed to be like a wealthy family. Guy has sister who's very weird about him. And then she moves into the house and she starts seeing ghosts. And that's the short of it. Because I'm going to dive into some of the other things in just a minute. And she doesn't have a mom. She's like really close to her dad. There's a couple things that I hated about it. There were not enough ghosts in this movie for my take. And I say that mostly because the ones that you did see were really well done. They were beautiful and very gothic horror, and they were perfect. And it was very disappointing to only see them a few times. We've talked about oversaturation, but this was like not even pushing that line. Like it definitely wasn't enough. I think the arc at the end where Tom Hiddleston's character, kind of like as a ghost comes and saves the day is obnoxious. Like, dude, no offense, but like, actually, no, all of the offense. She wouldn't even be in this position to be almost dead if it weren't for you. You knew what you were doing. You don't get to go, oh, sorry, you almost died for nothing. Let me help you in the end when there's nothing else for me to do because I'm already dead. That annoyed me. And there's like this little moment where he like smiles at her. I just want to stab him. He's already dead, so we'll do it again anyway, I guess. And then this is the big one. The big reason I don't like Crimson Peak. I don't understand what is our obsession with incest and storylines, particularly because it doesn't have to be there. It doesn't add anything. So in Taboo, the TV show with Tom Hardy, I love that show. I didn't hate it. It made sense. In fact, in a weird way, I was like super like pumped about that storyline. It's such a good movie, such a good show. Like I was like fine with it. Didn't make me uncomfortable. Didn't think it was weird. Like it fit. It does not, to me, it does not fit in Crimson Peak. So Jessica and Tom, whatever their names are in the movie, I don't even remember, are lovers. Which is why there's a part in the movie where Tom and Mia go away, because I don't remember their character names. Not horrible. To be together because they can't be together in front of her. They're married and they can't have sex because he's sleeping with his sister in the same house that they're all living in now. And she's essentially supposed to be brought there to be this like sacrifice for the house to help keep their wealth going and yada yada. But like, it just doesn't make any, I don't know. Like, I don't really feel like the incest part added anything. It just annoyed me. There's a part where she finds them together. I'm pretty sure it's Jessica going down on Tom. I'm pretty sure. And you're just like, I mean, duh. It was a super weird relationship to begin with, but I don't know. It just didn't add anything. And I think it's so weird how much of that there is in movies and things these days. Like, we just have this very questionable, like, obsession with incest. And it's fine if it makes sense. It's fine if it adds to the story. I guess if you're going for like shock value, but it didn't need to be in Crimson Peak. They could have simply just been siblings that were worried about their wealth, and from a sister's perspective of wanting to have the wealth and the family house or whatever, she, not wanting him to actually fall in love with a girl that they're supposed to be giving to the house, like that sort of thing. Like, I don't think you needed to add the sexual element. I think it just kind of was like weird. Redemption, the cast, obviously. Jessica Chastain is a phenomenal actress. Tom is a phenomenal actor. And I like Mia. Those are the only two things I've seen her in. Alice in Wonderland and that. But I like her a lot. I don't think that the acting was subpar in any way, and is probably the only reason I finished the movie, because I'm pretty sure I watched it at home. Once the incest thing came up, I was kind of like, oh, here we go. And then the other thing is I do think in some ways, at least from an aesthetic perspective, I think that it does kind of give an homage to Gothic horror. The architecture, the colors, the ambiance, the way the ghosts looked, the outfits, all of those sort of things kind of played into old school like Gothic horror movies, which are, they're classics, and they're classics for a reason, because we love them and we eat them up. So I think in that regard, I mean, that part was well done. It just seemed to be so much more focused on other things, and that's kind of a bummer, because I think otherwise it could have been a really good movie. Which brings us to number 5. This one, I have seen more people trying to kill each other in comments over this movie between like and dislike than I think I have any other movie ever. And the movie is Hereditary. Hereditary came out in 2018. It has a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb and an 89% on the thermometer scale. I laughed because one of the comments I did see one time was like, every time someone sees this movie, they feel like they need to talk about how bad it is. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that should say enough about it, right? Anyway, Hereditary is such a hot topic for me because I really, really hated this movie. Like, really, really hated it. And I guess that really seems to be the case. You either hate this movie, like it did something horribly offensive to you or your family members, or you love it so much that you're ready to like fist fight somebody over not liking it. Like, it's very weird extremes. And it's funny because I don't really know the couple of times I've had conversations with people who do like Hereditary, and I say, hey, why did you like it? What did you like about it? Crickets. There's no viable reason that, oh, I just did. I thought it was good. It was scary. It's none of the things that you just said. So the plot behind Hereditary, from what I remember, because this was another one I wasn't going to rewatch. It's about this family, this husband and wife, and their 2 kids. They have a teenage son and a younger daughter. I don't think she's quite a teenager. I think she's kind of like pre-teenage. And they go and live in the mom's house. And they have a tragedy in the family. Weird shit starts to happen. We find out why at the very end. It's a very normal family horror movie. There's like a family secret, or like a family member that has lost their mind, or like, and then you don't have any idea why, and then slowly it pieces together, and then the very end you're just like overwhelmed with the point of this 2-hour movie. So things that I hated. I did not give a fuck about this family. I really did not. I didn't care about the mom. I didn't care about the seemingly absent father. I didn't care about the weird teen. I didn't even care about the young girl. I didn't care about this family at all. I found myself halfway through this movie wondering, like, why am I even doing this to myself? Because I didn't care how it ended. I didn't care what the family secret was, because I just had this feeling like it was going to be this huge thing, and it's supposed to be this huge thing, and I was going to be so disappointed by it. And I was. The ending is when you find out that they're part of this like family of witches or something, and the daughter who died way early in the movie is like supposed to be their next, like, anointed is the only word that's coming to mind. That's not the correct word. Anyway, I'm so disinterested in like this movie that I'm just kind of like, ugh, it's just not a good. I'm trying to like focus in my thoughts. So the cult ending was very just kind of meh for me. And I actually love cult themes. I love witch themes. Anything along those vibes, I'm usually like super on board with. But this was so lackluster. And it felt like a lot of empty space with not enough information in it in terms of the story, the characters. Like, you're giving background, enough background, I suppose, but there's nothing there that really drives home any of it. The characters, the emotions they're feeling, what they're going through, because you're just like, eh. Um, and I think that I spent a great deal of the movie trying to figure out like what was going on, what was the point of this movie, and I felt lost in a not good way, and not a, oh, I can't wait to find out, or oh, this is driving me crazy, I really want to know what's going on. It was more of a, why did they make this? Like, it was horrible. Like, this movie gives me such bad, like, it makes me so mad. I don't like it at all. And so, when it comes to redemption, there really isn't any. I don't think I liked a single thing about this movie. Um, the only thing that I thought was really well done is the shock factor when the young girl gets decapitated. It's a very sudden thing, and it's very jarring because it's a child. And it's the brother is essentially to blame for it happening. And I think that scene was the only scene that I felt anything in, because when I was not expecting that to happen at all. And she sticks her head out the window, and then there's no more head. And I think that was a really cool scene. And I think that it was the only thing that jarred me, or like brought me in to care about the story. And I think that was, I kind of felt slow in the beginning, then that happened, and I was like, oh, this is going to be so good. And then it wasn't. Um, so those are my 5 worst movies with a cult following. Donnie Darko, It Follows, and Hereditary are the ones I expect to get the most hate about. But they're not good movies. You're entitled to your own opinion, of course. And if you liked Hereditary and you have a valid reason, I would love to hear it. Maybe you can convince me to rewatch it and give it another chance. But yeah, so those are my movies: Donnie Darko, Babadook, It Follows, um, Crimson Peak, and Hereditary. So yeah, yay! I had to get all of that out. I hate those movies. And it's so funny because people really are so pushy about their thoughts on like how much they like those movies. And they really don't understand when you say that you don't. It's like this blank stare just comes over them. And all they can see are like ones and zeros. It's very funny. And I'm like, I just don't like it. So anyway, if you like any of those movies, feel free to let me know why. I'm happy to hear it. Especially those 3 main ones, because I know those are ones that everybody always says they like, and they don't hardly ever have valid reasons for liking them. All right, well, that's enough of a gripe fest for me. I'm going to bed. I hope you guys are having a really good week, and that you have an awesome rest of your weekend, and I will see you in the next one.